Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Good day to everyone. I'm Zila Safarina Jaafar, and I'm presenting on behalf of my team a research entitled Deconstructing Visual Meanings in a Revisionist Text, an Alternative Pedagogical Strategy in the New Normal. Okay, the study is initiated by our observation on the trend of education around the world, which has been severely affected by COVID-19 pandemic. And this includes the education system in Malaysia. Therefore, we see there's uncertainty on the future of the education system, and there's insecurity of the future of the younger generation. At present, there are 14,538 and 94 confirmed positive COVID-19 cases worldwide. This shows how serious the pandemic crisis is. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to share the scenario of COVID-19, the experience that we have now. Due to the pandemic, the government has carried out a few practices of safety measures. They are lockdowns, school closures, physical distancing, and the loss of a familiar environment. And due to that as well, these restrict movement, routines that you do every day, and how you carry out traditional learning methods as well as on communication. And sadly to say, this leads to a few problems such as increase of pressure, feeling of stress, and anxiety. Yeah. For the learners who have been learning in such situation and an environment, they definitely face psychological turmoil, and I believe this affect their learning. For example, this can be seen from the way they understand the lesson, and in understanding the lesson, they create meanings in the form of assignment, meanings in the form of essays, and from the meaning, we know whether the meanings produced by the learners match the objective of the lessons, or maybe it means more than that. And this leads to the problem statement that there is the need to deconstruct meaning in education of new normal by discovering the sign maker's hidden voice. So, what is the sign maker's hidden voice via the visual meanings in a revisionist text? And this leads to the purpose of the paper, that is, to propose a reimagined and revitalized form of education for new normal by discovering the sign maker's voice via the visual meanings hidden in the revisionist text. Right, now let's have a look at the literature review on a few studies on education due as the implication of COVID-19 crisis to the new normal. Here I listed 4 studies by ICCOMAH 2020 on digitalized virtual classroom, Nursery 2020 on mobile learning, Mulenga Maban 2020 on digital learning, and last but not least, Zuban et al. 2020 on blended learning. Therefore, from the literature stated just now, it leads to the trend of education in the new normal that will be technology-based. Yeah. Okay, everyone. To help understand the study, there are a few operational definitions I've included here. First will be deconstruction as the critical analysis of text to understand the connection between text and meaning produced. Number two, revisionist text as the creative literary production by the sign maker who rejects typical representation about certain particular events, and they have restructured, redesigned it into something new, for example. Third, pedagogical strategy, which is the systematic management and delivery of knowledge that considers relevant content and learning activity. And last but not least, new normal as the situation of being after some intense changes have taken place. And that is the situation that we are living in now. Next, methodology and procedure for the research. What we have chosen to assist our research will be deconstruction, as taken from Jean Derrida's conceptualization of deconstruction, which is adapted to help reading again the text to discover the absence. We believe this is a potential pedagogical strategy to understand the meanings created by the learners. Right? To understand the alternative pedagogical strategy, there are a few concepts we have chosen to help analyze the text. First, CREST social semiotic, which is used to examine the sign chosen by the learner. Next, Greenbelt revisioning as a refashioning of the historical representation to address their hidden agenda or maybe current aspiration. Next, Christiva intertextuality as a reference to other texts in a way to justify for the creation done. And we have also Baudrillard hyperreality as a visual strategy when the students make meaning, and from the strategy it shows how the images are different from the typical design of the visual. Okay, now everyone, let's have a look at our text entitled Love and Sacrifice. Sacrifice. This is the text. You can see the sign maker has chosen the image of a gentleman. Okay, and then there's actually the background, the natural element at the back. You can see the rock, and then there's actually the sea. Right, those are the images chosen by the learner in order to make meaning. Okay, this is the strategy on how to deconstruct the revisionist text. At the beginning, there'll be data gathering and collection, and here we choose the relevant ones. Okay, next is followed by the revisionist reading of the text. By reading the revisionist text, that'll be step one, reading with the grain. Meaning that we are reading by understanding and looking and analyzing the pattern, the structure and the story as well. Concept used here will be semiotic analysis when looking at the pictures and the images as well as the colors, for example. And revisioning is another concept used to see how it's been projected in different light. Step two will be reading against the grain. Here what we do is we reread the text by looking for inconsistency. Here, intertextuality is used to refer to other texts to help justify why the learner create the inconsistency, why that is so. Yeah, and here what we do, we will consider resources. For example, the image. For image, you see the color, the shape, and all. Another relevant concept used here is hyperreality, to see how the image has been distorted or not. Yeah. Last but not least, there's the discovering of the absence. And definitely the concept used will be reading for absence. Now let's have a look at the poem again. What we see is the image of a sultan, a king, by referring to the text, the poetic lines. Yeah, and the sultan is in baju Melayu with tengkolo, and we also have the picture of surrounding the sea, the land, and what will be peculiar will be the color used in the image. Okay, let's analyze it. We analyze. Reading with the grain. Okay, from the semiotic analysis, we say that the rocky land at the center of the image signifies the obstacles and challenges that the great empire has experienced, and the sea signifies the water of political boundary. We also observe that the dull-colored nature as the background of the multimodal creation symbolically locates the seriousness of the matter. The concept of revisioning is also useful here when Sultan is shown as the rightful owner of the land. However, he's being presented in a very unique way. Next, reading against the grain. Let's focus at the visual of the Sultan. It is oddly presented, I believe, and we see through the strategy of hyperreality when the image is made strange, very strange. How is it so? The Sultan is not naturally connected to the background of the natural element of sea and land. It made strange, very strange. It seems like as if it's floating saint-like figure, just like the picture, the Western medieval painting, where human beings are seen hanging loose in space, not connected to land, right? In fact, the frame of the monarch is being superimposed or pasted on top of the background in a very strange way, so much so that the image is seen like a ghost or like a spirit looking around. So consequently from the reading, okay, and that is will be discovering the voice, we find out that the picture signifies what they feel inside. Yeah, it's a misfit to the reality, especially when the old history is forgotten, the images disappear. And this may indicate that the student, as the sign makers, has this uncertainty over the institution of royalty, as she is part of the post-independent generation who has not experienced the history, such as the Sultanate of Malacca. Right. From the study, we discover a few findings, and also it implicates certain ideas. First, deconstruction is a possible pedagogical strategy to be used in the new normal because they enable the learners to produce, and at the same time they tell their hidden voices, being those trapped in the pandemic crisis. They need a way to release what they have, the problems that they face. Second, this study also advocate on the use of revisioning the past as a method for creative production, and at the end reveal hidden voices. Yeah. Third, we agree that in a way, deconstruction, revisioning, and deconstruction introduce a new way of making meaning. It's unlike traditional way of what we have known now. And last but not least, it implicates paradigm shifts on paradigm shifts on empower learner as a sign maker. And the limitation of the study is that the strategy has been used by learner for creative production class, which is at higher education. They have been exposed to literary theories and creative production before they produce the poem. We agree that it requires creative and critical thinking skills as show of deep learning through the revisioning of the past, reflection of the ideas before they reproduce it. However, we believe the strategy can be applicable to the primary and the secondary school student, primary and secondary school education with certain amendments made. Right. With that, thank you very much.